So we're gonna take our block and you're gonna set up for hero's pose. And of course, hero's pose is always optional. Hero's pose is where you take your block the wide way, squeeze your inner ankles into the block, and sit down on the block. And you can always set up 2 blocks or set your block onto the higher setting. And I asked you guys to let me know what your theme of the week was. And my theme of the week has been impulse control. A couple weeks ago we were talking about bramacharya, which is exactly that. It states that when we gain control over our unconscious cravings, desires, we actually achieve a little bit of power. And this power we can slowly start to stack, right? So that we become more and more powerful spiritual beings. And it's really just in those little moments of pausing on the impulse control. I don't know if you guys have watched The Social Dilemma yet. I started watching that, and it really illuminates how our minds have been, just by the way we use our social media, our phones, Google, Pinterest, Twitter, whatever it is that you use. We are getting worse and worse at impulse control, right? Every time you have that micro moment of boredom, you might reach for your phone. So that's what I've been working on. I've been working on, oh, wait a minute. Let me just pause. Let me just wait. Okay? So, as we come into this practice today, we're going to still work with that impulse control. Yeah, we're going to be holding some poses that might not be the most comfortable poses. And I want you to notice when you have an impulse and see if you can sit with that impulse for a minute. One of the ones that's really, oh, hello. One of the ones that comes up a lot on the mat is the itch, right? Or the twitch or the fidget. So just watch yourself. And if you have to scratch something, you will. But just observe it, because this is a process, this is a practice of learning ourselves on a more intimate level. Okay, so let's get started. So our knees are drawn all the way together. If you look back at your toes, all 10 toes are pointing straight back behind you. Yeah? You feel your sitting bones pressing down into your block. If you're not in hero's pose, you can sit with your shins crossed instead if that's more comfortable for you. And then rest your hands on your inner knees or on your thighs, depending on what position that you're in. And just start to breathe, and just notice as you breathe the temperature of your mind, what's going through your mind. And in these first few moments when we shift the awareness onto our breath, we notice that the mind starts to slow down. It starts to be a little bit less, so many things popping up, so many different scattered thoughts, is that we start to see one thought kind of in the frame. And then there might be a pause, and then there might be another thought. So just watch yourself, watch this process. Every time you step onto your mat, you have access to this process of focusing your attention on your breath and watching the mind start to still, start to quiet down a little bit. And it's when our attention is so focused on what's on our mind that we become a little bit more susceptible to just following every single impulse. So let's take a few nice deep cleansing breaths. So take the deepest breath in. Imagine you could pour the breath in through the top of your skull, and as if you're pouring water, fill your pelvis, fill the sides of your waist, fill the lungs, fill all the way up into the collarbones, and hold your breath. Part your lips and sigh that breath all the way out, and release the breath from the lowest part of your lungs. Hi, Stinky, she showed up. One more time, take a deep, not one, two.
We lost you, Rachel. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. You don't see me? You don't hear me?
You're muted.
How'd that happen? Hi, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think this might be a problem with the Zoom.
Yeah? Something's going wrong with Zoom today?
I think it may be, because you're going in and out.
Yeah, it muted me on its own, like for no reason. I wasn't muted before, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, that's weird.
We're fine. It looks like it's a little back to normal, although we lost somebody.
We lost Sally. Oh, she's back. And she's back. Okay, pretend nothing happened. We're back where we were. Thank you for letting me know. Always do that, you guys. All right, we good? All right, I think we were in the middle of cleansing breath, so just cleanse that whole situation away. One more deep, full breath, breathing all the way down into your pelvis, sides of the waist, entire three-dimensionality of your lungs, all the way up to your collarbones. Hold your breath for a second. And then open your mouth and sigh that breath out and release the breath from the lowest lobes of your lungs. And now just imagine there's a clear and steady channel now for your breath to flow in and out. And then it's from this more clear space that we're able to set up our posture. So take a moment and really feel those two sitting bones as they press down into whatever it is that you're sitting on. See if you can form that rectangle with your sitting bones, your pubic bone, and your tailbone. And as you root that down, think about lifting the spine. You root so that you can rise. Stack the shoulders directly above the hips. Move the ears back so they're in line with the shoulders. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. And imagine the very top of your head, you could lift it up as if you could poke through the sky. And now let's just sit here and breathe for a few moments and notice if any impulses come up. Sometimes it's an impulse to follow a thought form. Sometimes we have an impulse to go down certain, roads that are familiar to us, such as anger or worry or fear. Sometimes the impulse to look for distractions, to open our eyes, to look around, to check different things out. So just observe yourself. See if you can focus on your breath, but notice when an impulse comes up and notice your response to that impulse. Slowly allow your eyes to open, keep your gaze low, and then lift your eyes to look forward. Extend your arms straight out to the sides. Invert your palms, biceps up towards the ceiling, so you revolve through your entire arms. And then as you inhale, stretch your arms up slightly forward. So they're not quite in line with your ears. I don't want you guys to drop your chin down and to get that tension in your neck. So imagine that you could lift from the front and the back of your body as if you could lift the rib cage off of the pelvis. Draw the outer arms in towards one another. Spin the biceps towards your ears. Imagine you could spin the palms towards the back of the room. Good. Take a nice big inhale. And as you exhale, bring your right hand across to the outside of your left thigh. Bring your left fingertips behind you or on top of a block. And then just be here for a few rounds of breath. And you guys know, inhale, get longer. Exhale, contract your abdominals, deepen the twist. And notice what other impulses might come up. Take one more round of breath. Look back towards the front. Extend the arms out to the sides again, as if you could make your arms a little bit longer. Again, revolve your biceps up towards the ceiling. And inhale, as you lift your arms, imagine you are lifting your ribcage up off of your pelvis. Now, again, think about those outer arms rolling in. Draw a line from the inner part of your armpits up through your thumbs and soften your inner upper shoulders while you remain super tall. Beautiful, you guys. Take one more inhale, get a little longer. As you exhale, revolve towards the right. Take your left hand across. Take your right fingertips behind you or onto a block. And as you inhale, feel your spine getting longer. And as you exhale, contract into your belly muscles to deepen your twist. Take a few more rounds of breath like this and notice what else comes up in your mind, in your physical body, any other impulses that might show up. Good, and then look forward again. Release your twist, take your arms out to the sides again. And then reach your arms in front of you, hooking your right thumb on top of your left thumb. Good. Now, as you inhale, super slowly, the arms must stay completely straight. Start to float the arms up. If this is as far as you go, great. Make sure you aren't doing anything weird with your cervical spine. As you continue to float those arms up, you just work with your breath. Whenever you hit a sticky point, just stay. Imagine you could rip your thumbs apart from one another and feel that energy creating an uplift. Your rib cage lifting up off of your pelvis, and you're getting some spaciousness between your pelvis and your rib cage, which is your lower back, which a lot of times, hey there, we feel some tenderness there. So inhale, get a little bit longer, soften those inner upper shoulders. Root down through your right sitting bone, and as you exhale, just bring your hands towards the left. And imagine your fingertips were stretching on that diagonal. Pour the breath down into your right lung as if you could nourish that right lung. Imagine the breath hitting all those different alveoli through your lungs. Good, inhale back up to the top. And as you exhale, just relax your arms back down and just observe yourself for a moment. One more time, arms out to the sides. Bring your hands together in front of you. This time hook your left thumb on top of your right thumb. And be super curious about the journey as you start to float the arms up. Notice your tendencies. Do you flare those front ribs out? Do you create shortness in your lower spine? Imagine you could rip your thumbs apart from one another and feel that energy creating an uplift, rooting down through that rectangle at the base of your pelvis, rolling the triceps forward, and softening the inner upper shoulders. And take one more inhale. And as you exhale, release your hands back down onto your lap. And just take a moment to be quiet. And then move your block aside and come onto all fours position. Stretch your fingers out nice and wide. Press down the tops of the feet and the shins. And then start to move through cat and cow. A few rounds to synchronize with your breath. So now is your opportunity to create a rhythm, a structure to your breath, a metronome, if you will, to which you'll be choreographing your movements to for the remainder of the class. So your breath is like partners with your heart, which is like the drum. Your breath is like the wind instrument in the orchestra. But actually, your breath is more like the drum, right? Because it's setting the rhythm. So let's take a few more rounds. And then after your last round, after your next round, after you come into cat, one more time, elongate your spine. So you come into a neutral spine position. You create that little zipping up action from your pubic bone to your navel. Tuck your toes under. Hover your kneecaps 1/2 of an inch above your yoga mat. And as you do, think about if you could elongate the inseams of your arms. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, find your way into downward facing dog. So as you find your way into downward facing dog, stretch those hips up and back. Imagine you could emanate energy out through every single fingertip. Move around a little bit if you want to here. You might want to pedal your feet, or lift up high onto the balls of the feet, dropping to the outer edge of one foot, the inner edge of the other foot. And really find what feels good to you guys right now. Just search, explore your body. Now's the time where you actually can. Notice what the impulse is and give that to yourself. Sometimes an impulse is a healthy impulse, and sometimes an impulse is just an impulse. So creating that pause allows us to take stock. Good, let's warm up the core, let's warm up the shoulders. Inhale, shift forward to the top of your push-up, stacking your shoulders above your wrist. Press your heels back against an imaginary wall, fire up your quadriceps, and elongate through the crown of your head. Imagine you could lift up out of the inner part of your palms. Good, take one more inhale. And as you exhale, lift your hips up and back into that downward facing dog. Again, inhale, shift forward, and you can do this at any tempo that your breath dictates. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. So follow your breath for 3 more rounds, shifting it forward into plank pose, and it doesn't matter what anyone else is on the screen is doing. You just follow your own breath. Sometimes our impulse is to look around and see what other people are doing. Try to stay centered within yourself. And after your last round, whenever that is, take your feet out as wide as your yoga mat. And slowly start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Then turn your toes out 45 degrees, drop your hips down so you're in a nice low squat, malasana. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and press your inner knees into your elbows. And imagine you could pull your palms down into your solar plexus, and as you pull your palms down, can you lengthen your sternum up? Find your breath. Still pouring that breath all the way down into your pelvis and feeling that expansion from the bottom to the top. Good, and then place your hands back down on the floor. Lift the sides of your hips up. Heel to your feet so that they're hips distance apart. As you inhale, lengthen your chest forward. And as you exhale, fold back down. Start to walk your hands forward on an inhale breath, inhaling all the way until you reach that plank pose. Good, and then bend your knees, drop your knees down to the floor. And as you exhale, we're going to lower halfway down into chaturanga and hold it. So elbows are going to line up to the sides of your waist. The shoulders are no lower than the elbows. Sometimes the impulse is telling us, no more, I can't do this, come on down. Just see if you can stay to the other side of that. Good, and then meet me on your belly. Lower yourself all the way down. Stretch back through your toes. Press the pinky toenails down into the floor. Reach your arms back behind you with your palms down on your yoga mat. See if you can reach your fingertips back a little bit further so your shoulder blades descend down your back. And then start to lift your arms up so your shoulder heads move away from the floor. You're still gazing straight down in front of you. And then with your arms reaching back, imagine you could start to lengthen the sternum forward and then up, lifting up into Shalabhasana, eventually lengthening the legs so much that the legs lift up off of the floor. Stay here, breathe. Feel your breath filling and deflating in your belly, getting that feedback from the earth. Notice where your impulses go. Can you stay present? Go ahead, take one more inhale. And as you exhale, lower it down. Place your hands directly underneath your elbows. Point your elbows towards the back of the room. Pull your yoga mat backwards energetically with your hands. And start to coil your upper spine up into baby cobra. And then once you land in what you think is your highest height, lift your palms up off of the floor. Keep your gaze steady on the floor in front of you. And just breathe here for a few rounds of breath. Tuning into the upper back muscles, notice any impulse to escape or avoid. Good, and then release. Place your hands down. Allow your shoulders and head to move back towards the floor. And then shift your hips back into a child's pose, gluing your hands down onto the yoga mat. Stretch, stretch, stretch back through your hips, as if your hips were magnetizing towards your heels. Pressing the inner palms down, spinning the triceps down, spinning the biceps up. Visualizing from your outer armpits to your pinky fingers, elongating. Good, and then shift forward again, tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Good, and then inhale, shift forward again. Drop your knees back down to the mat. Exhale, lower halfway down and hold. Inhale, baby cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, shift forward to plank. Option to drop the knees to the floor. Exhale, lower halfway down and hold. Observe yourself. Are you freaking out in any way? Inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. Pause. If you're an upward facing dog, project the center of your sternum towards the front of the room. Melt your pelvis down towards the floor. Lift your pubic bone. And as you exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Good. Now slowly start to walk your feet forward towards the top of your yoga mat. You can bend your knees if you need to. Try not to run. Just walk. When you land, observe that your second toes are in line with the side edges of your yoga mat. As you inhale, draw the lowest part of your belly in, stretch your chest forward. And as you exhale, fold back in. Root to rise, press down the four corners of your feet. Inhale, circle your arms, reach all the way up to the sky. And exhale, bring your hands together in front of your heart. And just pause here for a moment. What is in your space? Are there any impulses? Are there any cravings? Are there any pulls to be not here in this present moment? Bring yourself back into the moment by following your breath and following even the feeling of your palms pressing into one another. Anything that you can feel in your body. Great, and then release your arms down. Tadasana, so stand with your heart wide open, feet pressing down into the floor, crown of the head lifted. Breathe all the breath out, so drain all the breath out of the lowest lobes of your lungs. And then fill yourself from the bottom to the top. Inhale as if you could gather all of that energy up above you. And as you exhale, hinge and fold forward. Inhale, lift your chest. As you exhale, step your left foot to the back of the yoga mat, drop your back knee down. Scoot your blocks in so they're close to you. Press the top of your foot down. Think about lifting from your pubic bone. Inhale your arms straight up to the sky. And then as you exhale, shift your hips backwards, catch a hold of your blocks. Place the blocks on either side of your right foot. Flex your right toes up towards your shin. And then let's flow. Inhale, bend your right knee, take your arms to the sky, let your pelvis drift forward. Exhale, hinging from your hips, straighten through that right leg, right toes towards the ceiling. Good, one more time. Inhale, arms to the sky. Pelvis drifts forward. And as you exhale, shift your hips backward, flex your right toes. Good, re-bend your right knee. Hands on the blocks, tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee up off of the mat. Imagine you could pull the blocks backwards as you lengthen your chest forward. Draw the outer right hip crease towards the back, spin the left inner thigh towards the sky. Lift up onto your fingertips on your blocks. And then take your arms straight out to the sides as if you could touch the sides of the room. Think of the inseam of your left leg as being the center line of your body. Notice any impulses that come up here. Last breath. Take your hands back down, move the blocks aside, place your hands on the floor, step your right foot back to meet your left. Use your breath metronome to carry you through the vinyasa, and use your intelligence and your wisdom to decide how you're going to go about all of these postures, all of these poses, sometimes taking baby cobra instead of upward facing dog, sometimes skipping the vinyasa. Then inhale your left leg straight back behind you. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, step your foot between your hands, drop your back knee down. Good, make sure your blocks are close by. Uncurl your right toes, press the top of your right foot down, and from that awareness at the floor of your pelvis, lift up. So you're trying to lift that rib cage up off of your pelvis, creating space in your lower back. Take an inhale. As you exhale, find your flow. Start to take your hands to the blocks. Flex your left toes up towards the ceiling. Good, now notice, did you collapse over towards the right-hand side? I'm just saying that because I did. So draw yourself back into the midline. And then let's flow. Bend your left knee. Let your pelvis drift forward. Inhale the arms to the sky. Find that tiny back bend in your upper back. Exhale, hands to the blocks. And fold yourself forward, toes towards the ceiling. One more time. Bend your knee. Float your arms all the way up. Let your pelvis keep drifting forward. And as you exhale, hands to the blocks. And imagine the crease of your left hip moving towards the back of your mat. Good, you guys. I see we have a guest today. Nice to see you, Stinky. Please stay with us. Rebend your front knee. Tuck your back toes under. Lift your back knee up off of the mat so your hands are on those blocks. And then find the midline of your body, that center line. We talk so much in yoga about being centered. What does that mean? Find that center line and elongate it. So it's like the inseam of your right leg is being stretched all the way through the crown of your head. As you seal that left hip in, right inner thigh to the sky, get a little lighter on your fingertips. And as you scissor your legs towards one another, take your arms straight out to the sides. Make sure your belly's not collapsing down on your thigh. Keep that sense of lift, of a levitation, your belly hovering an inch above your thigh. Good. Just be present with whatever comes up. Beautiful. Take your hands down to the blocks. Step your right foot forward. You can keep your hands on the blocks if you want to. Inhale, find that length. It's interesting when we don't have the same distance to the floor. Exhale, fold back down. As you inhale, circle your arms, reach all the way up. What are you gathering? And as you exhale, bring your hands back to your heart and just pause. Have this moment. A moment of clarity, a moment of focus. Release your fingertips down to Dasana. Again, inhale, root down, circle the arms. Imagine you could scoop everything up. Exhale, hinge and fold forward, long spine. Inhale, lift your chest. And as you exhale, step your right foot to the back of the yoga mat. Drop your right knee down. Slide your blocks back so that they're in line with your left foot. Let your pelvis drop forward. Inhale your arms up to the sky. Right away, we'll start to flow. So exhale, hinge from the hips, fingertips to the blocks. Culminate with the toes lifting towards the ceiling. Follow your own breath. Inhale, back into Anjaneyasana. Exhale, find your hamstring stretch. Inhale, back up into Anjaneyasana. And last time, exhale, find that hamstring stretch. And then just rebend your front knee. Tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee up off of the mat. Think about drawing that outer left hip back, spinning the right inner thigh to the sky, finding that midline, and then get a little bit lighter onto your fingertips on the blocks. Good, stretch your arms out to the sides, just like we did before, and either stay here or circle your arms forward, palms facing one another, so your arms are in line with your cheekbones. And notice the impulse. Notice where your mind goes. Good, wherever you are, slowly release. Move your blocks aside, place your hands down. Step your left foot back to meet your right. Notice how that feels. Take yourself through your vinyasa, breath by breath. Continuing to execute wisdom, intelligence in how you choose to move on this mat. Inhale your right leg up to the sky. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, and step your foot between your hands. Drop your back knee down, uncurl your toes, press the top of your foot down, and as you inhale, rise up into Anjaneyasana. Make sure your blocks are on either side of your foot. Just flow right away. Exhale, start to Hinge forward, hands to the blocks. Reach your chest forward of your toes. Inhale, Anjaneyasana. Follow your own breath rhythm. Exhale, back into the hamstring stretch. Good, last time. Inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, hands to the blocks, toes to the sky. Rebend your front knee, tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee up off of the mat. Squeeze your outer hips in, so you're still committing to that midline. Thinking about scissoring that right heel back, left toes forward, lift up onto the middle fingers, or the fingertips, I mean, and then stretch your arms out towards the sides. And just observe yourself. Maybe turn your palms to face one another and stretch your arms forward so that your arms are in line with your cheekbones. Stay with your breath. Good, slowly bring your hands down. Step your left foot forward to meet your right. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold back down. Root to rise. Inhale, circle the arms, reach all the way up. Zip up from pubic bone to navel. And exhale, hands to your heart and just pause here. Good, so you're gonna shift the weight onto your right foot. You're gonna send your left foot out in front of you. And then externally rotate that thigh. So your inner thigh is going to point up towards the ceiling. Take your right hand to the outside of your right hip and firm that right hip in towards the midline. And then grab a hold of your left shin and place it either at your inner calf or at your inner thigh. Notice that your right hip doesn't start to jut out to the side, that your right leg is pressing into your left foot, just as much as your left foot is pressing into your right thigh. And then once you find your position, check your frontal hip points, make sure they're facing straight forward. Bring your hands together in front of your heart, and as you press your palms together, solidify that midline. Now in this posture, sometimes our impulses are emotional impulses, right? So we get frustrated. Observe that. And maybe we don't get frustrated. Maybe we're doing it really well today. Well, in quotation marks, there's no such thing. So we feel proud. Notice that impulse. When you're ready, stretch your arms up. Reach through your fingertips. Imagine the base of your neck softening as your arms get more enthusiastic. Good, and then reach the arms out to the side and peek over the edge of a cliff. So you're just flexing your spine forward, making it dynamic. Inhale, scoop the arms all the way back up. Palms join at the top. And exhale, bring your hands down in front of your heart. Good. Lift your left knee up right in front of you. Just take a moment here as you drill your right foot down into the floor. Good, and then slowly release. Bring your palms together again. Take your right foot out in front of you. Turn your inner thigh so it's facing the ceiling. And then bring your hand to your left hip. Go ahead and sit that left hip out into your hands. You feel the side of your hip. And then firm it in. Good, then take your right hand and assist your right leg wherever you're practicing today. Then bring your hands back together in front of your heart. Check in with your frontal hip points and notice how much of an angle you have. Like it's probably not straight out to the side, and that probably has to do with the shape of your hip socket, so don't force it. Take a few deep breaths here and observe what comes up for you. Good, and then when you're ready, stretch your arms up to the sky. Keep drilling down through your trunk or through your roots, through the bottom of your left foot, your left leg being like the trunk of the tree. And then extend your arms out to the side and peer over the edge of a cliff. Now it's not a real cliff, so this is really like, you don't have to get frustrated about any of this. You're not really gonna fall off a cliff. Inhale, scoop it all the way up, palms join at the top. Exhale, hands to your heart. And then just lift that right knee up in front of you. Good, and release it down. Good, so I say this all the time. Yoga is about gracefully managing transitions. So let's shift the weight back to the right leg. Lift your left knee back into your chest. palms touch one another, and then slowly start to lunge your left leg back into a warrior two. So you land heel to arch alignment, open your left arm up and come into Virabhadrasana two. Beautiful. Now, think about squeezing that right sitting bone underneath you, and that will assist your right knee in tracking more over the center of your foot. As you think about everything from the hip creases down, rooting down, everything from the above the pelvis lifting up, levitating. And take your arms straight out to the sides if they're not there already. Deepen the bend of your front knee as you press the outer edge of your back foot. You're creating like a break in that back foot. And then keep this nice deep warrior two. Flip your palms over, biceps revolve towards the ceiling. And inhale the arms all the way up, palms facing one another. Arms are super enthusiastic, yeah? So they're straight. It's like you're holding a block up above you. Breathe here. Good. Keep breathing. Notice the impulses that come up. Hook your right thumb on top of your left thumb. Feel as if your arms were just lengthening out of the sides of your body. So both sides of the body stay long as you start to shift forward over that front leg. Keep the right side of your waist nice and long. Good, and then bring your hand down to your forearm to your thigh or your hand to a block. Top arm up to the sky, Parsvottanasana. Continue to tuck your right sitting bone underneath you and lean the back of your skull back against an imaginary wall behind you. Good, turn your left palm to face forward and reach out of the outer edge of your left foot as you stretch your left arm forward into the front of the room. If you want a little bit more here, stretch your right arm forward as well, or a little bit low here, so you can make an intelligent choice for yourself. And then just breathe and notice what impulses, what thoughts, what unconscious things come to the surface. Good. Take your top arm straight back up to the sky. If you don't have your hand on a block, place your hand on a block to the inside or the outside of your right ankle. And then straighten your right leg by pressing into the mound of your right big toe. Align your right sitting bone to the arch of your back foot. If your neck bothers you in this posture, you look down. More classically, you look up at your top hand. You lean your earlobes towards the back side of your mat, the side you don't see. Good, and then bring your hand to your hip. Bend your right knee, scoot your back leg in a couple of inches, place the block down 8 inches forward of your pinky toe. And then as you shift forward, find Ardha Chandrasana, sending that left leg straight back behind you. Pretend you have a 10-pound weight hanging on that left leg. Draw the outer right hip crease back, so your sitting bone is not pointing out towards the right. Try to bring it back more towards the center line. Your hand is still on your hip. See if you can get a little lighter on your right fingertips and see if you can find the balance. Stretch your right arm forward, palm facing up. Stretch your left arm forward over your left ear, so you're reaching forward into the front of the room. Now from here, I know you're curious where we're going. Take one more breath and ride through it and find your way back into tree pose. So come all the way up. And as your leg comes into that externally rotated position, place it back wherever it is that you're practicing and bring your hands to your heart again. Firm that right hip in. Extend the arms up to the ceiling, base of the neck is soft. Reach your arms out to the side, peer over the cliff again. Good, and as you inhale, take the arms back up to the sky. Palms join. Hands come together in front of your heart. Lift your left knee straight up in front of you. Catch the front of your left knee with your interlaced fingertips and pull backwards on your knee so that you can stand up nice and tall. You guys look great. Now swing your left arm round and back. You're trying to reach that left arm on the midline of your yoga mat. Turn your shoulders to face the left. Take an inhale, get long from the sole of your right foot all the way through the crown of your head. And as you exhale, contract your belly muscles to deepen the twist. If you're feeling pretty good here and you want to stretch the right fingertips in opposition of the left fingertips, you can even straighten that left leg if you don't start to bend that right knee. Good, and then inhale, both arms up to the sky no matter where you are. And exhale, release it down. Good. So you're going to shift the weight onto your left foot. Curl your right knee in towards your chest, hands together in prayer. And then slowly start to find warrior two. So bend your left knee and take all the time in the world to land heel to arch alignment. Good. So extend the arms out to the side. Actually, before you extend the arms out to the side, bring your hands to your hips. And think about using your hands to assist the pelvis and the legs in rooting down as you energetically lift up out of your pelvis through your muscles of your torso. Then extend your arms out to the side. Bend your front knee a little bit deeper. Resist with the outer edge of your back foot. This is like your anchor. Good, and then circle your arms up to the sky, palms face one another. And imagine your hands are lifting your ribcage out of the pelvis. Relax your inner upper shoulders. Soften the base of your neck. Breathe. Notice what comes up. Hook your left thumb on top of your right thumb. Soften your inner upper shoulders. Roll your triceps forward. Take an inhale to elongate, and as you exhale, long torso as you lean forward. Both sides of the waist long. Reach through all 8 of your fingertips, meaning not your thumbs, but your fingertips. Good, and then you can either bring your forearm to your thigh or place a block on the outside or the inside of your left foot. Arm to the sky, and then turn your right palm forward and start to elongate your right arm out in front of you. Still continue to root down through the outer edge of your right foot. Good, and if you guys want a little more, you can stretch that left arm forward as well without losing that anchor, without losing the groundedness of your legs. Good, and then wherever you are, place your hand back on the block, top arm back up to the sky, and consciously, mindfully start to press into the mound of your left big toe. Hug the outer left shin in and under. Press your pelvis forward so your sitting bone tracks in line with the arch of your back foot. Looking down towards your foot if your neck feels funky here, or looking up towards your hand. Lean your earlobes back towards the side of your mat you cannot see. Good, then bring your hand to your hip. Bend into your left knee, look forward, move your block about 8 inches forward of your pinky toe, slide your back foot in a little bit. As you root down through that left foot, allow that to create the rise through your right leg. And observe that the sides are a little different. So rather than trying to roll that right hip all the way on top of the left one, you might feel some compression in your back. So imagine that you could press a little bit more back through the inseam of your leg. Where are we? We have our hand on our hip. Still. And then maybe you get a little lighter onto your fingertips. And maybe you reach your left arm forward. Maybe you reach your right arm forward as well. So both hands are reaching into the front of the room. And then you start to make that cartwheel sort of transition back into tree pose. Once you find your tree pose, bring your hands back together in front of your heart. Good. Observe your tendencies. That's the only reason to be on this mat. This mat is like a big mirror where we can see parts of ourselves that we may not always be able to see because they're so habitual. Good, now float your arms all the way up. Base of the neck is soft. It's like you could shoot energy out through the inseams of your arms. Good, and then peer over that cliff as you stretch your arms out to the side, looking forward. And inhale, take it all the way back up, palms join at the top. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Good. Right knee straight in front of your right hip. Release the interlace. Interlace your fingers in front of your right knee and just pause for a moment. We have our stem, our trunk, pressing straight down into the earth. Notice if you're sinking, if your stem is sinking out to the left. Good. And then take your right arm, circle it around and back. If you want to make it more challenging, you can gaze towards your right hand. As you inhale, root down, rise up. And as you exhale, contract your belly muscles to deepen the twist. And now either just stay here, work on the balance, or stretch your left fingertips in opposition of your right. And maybe extend your right leg out in front of you as well. Either way, however you're here is fine. Just breathe, observe your tendencies. Good, and then inhale, both arms up to the sky. Soften the inner upper shoulders. Draw the right thigh bone into the hip socket. Good, nice and stable. And then slowly release it down. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Bend your knees. Circle your arms, Utkatasana. Here's a really good opportunity for us to see what our impulses are. No one likes to hold Utkatasana. Drop your hips a little bit lower, lift all 10 toes up a little bit more. Notice if your knees are knocking in towards one another. Create a tiny space, so if there was like a little ladybug between your knees, you would not be squishing that ladybug. Sit a little bit deeper. A little bit deeper. A little bit deeper still. And then sit yourself all the way down and lift your legs into Navasana. So for now, your knees can be bent. You're holding onto the backs of your thighs. You're holding onto the backs of your thighs so that you can pull your chest up. Find that movement. And then if you're fairly comfortable here, stretch the arms forward and maybe start to elongate the legs. Notice your impulses, notice your thoughts, notice your judgments. Boat pose, Navasana. Good, lower yourself halfway down, Ardha Navasana. Scoop out the low belly, lift your shoulder blades a little higher, and hold here as well. Good, and then hug your knees in towards your chest. And just take some deep breaths here, and just take a moment to reflect on what your experience looking into this mirror has been for the past hour or so. Start to circle your ankles around and around, and then around and around the opposite way. Good, and then drop your left leg down to the yoga mat. Keep hugging your right knee in. And extend your right leg up to the ceiling. So if you want to have a strap, you can place a strap around your ball of your foot, or you can hold the back of your hamstring. If you have a strap, or if you're holding your toes, even if you're holding your foot, you don't want your shoulders to be up off of the floor. So take your shoulder blades down to the floor, and then whatever you're holding, it has to be from that orientation. Bring your left hand to your left hip. Turn your right entire leg out towards the right, so you externally rotate. And then slowly start to bring that right leg out over your right shoulder. So this is actually the same as triangle, same pose. Great. Lift your leg back up to the top. Extend your arms out to the sides, and then slowly start to twist that right leg across. And if you have your strap, you can stay with the strap. You can pass the strap into your left hand and slowly guide your right leg down. Good, roll back onto your back. Hug your right knee back into your chest. Extend your right leg back up towards the ceiling. With your right leg extended towards the ceiling, think about you're trying to move your toes as close to your forehead as you can, but you're also trying to reach your right thigh away from you. And I know that sounds a little confusing, but think about if you could elongate that right thigh bone to soften your hip flexor. And you can stay right here, lift your head and your shoulders, reach your arms forward, or you can hover your left leg a couple of inches away from the floor. Good, lower your right leg down to meet your left, whether it's on the floor or not. Hold here. Good, and then hug your left knee into your chest as you let your right leg relax down into the mat. So your right leg is on the midline of your mat. Look and make sure. A lot of times it's flopping out to the right. Either take your strap or start to extend through your left leg. And my left is really tight, so I always notice a lot of scrunching in my left hip. You can use your left hand to move your left thigh bone forward. So you're thinking about moving that thigh bone away from you. Start to externally rotate through your right leg. Take your left leg. Take your right hand onto your right front hip point and start to draw that left leg out over your left shoulder. Think of triangle pose here. Good. If you have the strap, you just pass the strap into your right hand. Otherwise, extend your arms out to the side and take yourself into that twist. Left leg coming over, gazing towards the left. Good. And then roll yourself back over. Hug your knee in towards your chest. Extend your left leg straight again. Think about moving that left thigh bone away from you as your toes try to move closer to your face. And either keep your right leg up or down. You can float it a couple of inches up. Lift your head and shoulders. Reach your arm forward. And then slowly lower your left leg down to meet your right. So you could just be laying, pressing your back ribs down, legs down, trying to curl the torso up a little bit more. Good, and then on your next exhale breath, hug your knees in towards your chest. Land your feet down on the floor. Heels in line with the sitting bones, dynamic bridge. Inhale the arms back, the hips up, tailbone elongating towards the back of the knees. Exhale, roll down vertebrae by vertebrae, bring your hands back down to the floor. Inhale, stretch the arms, lift the hips. See if you can lift up underneath the shoulder blades a little bit more. Exhale, vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae, arms come back down by your sides. Last time, inhale the arms back, lift the hips up. Good, now circle the arms around underneath you, interlace your fingers, shimmy your shoulder blades to the center of your back, press the forearms down, and lift up through the center of the chest. Tailbone is long. Heel toe your feet a little closer together. Shift the weight onto your right foot. Curl your left knee in towards your chest. And then reach your left ball of your foot straight up towards the ceiling. Good. Slowly start to bend your left knee. Place your left foot back down on the floor. Release the interlace of your hands, noticing which thumb you've crossed on top. And roll yourself down vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae. Inhale, stretch the arms back behind you, dynamic bridge. Stay up, exhale, interlace opposite thumb on top, hands underneath your back. Shimmy your shoulder blades to the center. Inhale, lift up through the center of your chest. Heel toe your feet a little closer together if they're not there already. Shift the weight onto your left foot. Curl your right knee in towards your chest. And then extend out through the ball of your right foot, as if your right leg could reach even higher into the sky. Curl your right knee back down into your chest. Drop your right foot down to meet your left. Release the interlace of your hands. And lower down upper back, middle back, lower back, all the way down to the floor. Great. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. Hug your left knee into your chest. Thread the needle. Of course, you can do something else if you prefer to take a single pigeon, if you want to get up. Take a sukhasana if you'd rather cross your thigh bones, pull your feet in towards you. If you do that variation, notice if your pelvis is skewing. Probably is. Even in thread the needle it might be. So press the right knee out to the right a little bit more and feel your belt line or your waistline of your pants get nice and level. Now start to soften everything. Notice if your eyes are not soft. Notice if your grip is not soft. Notice if your throat is not soft. Notice if even your scalp is not soft. Notice if your eyebrows are not soft. Every breath take you a little bit further into a softening. Great. Drop your left foot down. Cross your right thigh bone over. Arms to the side. Let your knees descend towards the left. Imagine you could breathe into all of this space, all the little nooks and crannies here. Great. Revolve it back to the center. Uncross your legs. Place the sole of your right foot down. Cross your left ankle over your right knee, or whatever variation you're choosing. If you're taking thread the needle, left hand to the inside of the left knee and push that leg away. Feel where your belt line got scrunchy on that side, yeah? And then go ahead and hold on either the top of your right knee or behind your right thigh. Close your eyes and observe yourself. So as we start to get quiet, our impulses come more from where we allow our minds to go, our thoughts. If we start to fast forward out into our day, if we start to zone out, not be present. Soften your grip. Soften your jaw. Soften the space between your eyebrows. Drop your right foot back down. Cross your left thigh bone over, arms to the sides. And let your knees descend towards the right as you gaze towards the left. And imagine that you could send breath into every cell and every molecule of your body here. Good, and then slowly bring it back to the center. Uncross your legs. Bring your knees in towards your chest. And then let's take happy baby, reaching on the insides of your legs. Catch your big toes with your peace fingers. And bring your knees outside of your hips. As you pull your toes down, try to press your heels up. And make sure that the entire tailbone is down on the floor. So we don't want to be lifting our pelvis up off of the floor. We want to stay rooted. And then you can either stay here or start to straighten the legs any amount. If you straightened your legs, come back into a happy baby. And then release your toes, hug your knees back into your chest. Lift your head and your shoulders up off of the floor. Imagine you could touch your forehead and your knees in towards one another. Take an enormous big inhale and feel yourself full here. Full to bursting. And as you exhale, relax everything and let that breath just kind of land. Let it just kind of resonate on your exhale breath, as if that breath that you held was now matriculating out into all of your cells and all of your molecules. Allow your eyes to close, and as you allow your eyes to close, imagine you were turning your eyes to look within. Now let's set our gaze for today on the heart center. Imagine you were gazing into the chambers of your heart. And see if you can stay in this heart-centered place for the next 2-3 minutes. Notice your impulses to look at the clock, to think about your projects, to fidget or scratch. Can you invite absolute stillness into your physical structure? As you're ready, start to create your own transitions. Yoga is all about creating graceful transitions. So this time spent in reflection Today's reflections, Svadhyaya means our self-study, was focused on bramacharya, our ability to control our unconscious impulses or desires. Make any transitions that feel good in your body. Eventually you will find your way to a seated position, and when you get there, eyes still closed, remain patient. Imagine that we had a class of 100 people and we all have different rhythms, but we are willing to be patient and wait for one another to arrive so that we can all set this final meditation out together. So we're all in slightly different geographical locations, and some of us are practicing later on YouTube, so we might be on a whole nother day. But the point is that these places, like yoga is not just about our physical practice, it has a ripple effect out into the world. So we change ourselves little bit by noticing our unconscious impulses and desires and pressing the pause button. And every time we do this, we get a little bit stronger. It affects how we interact with our external world. It affects how we interact with the people who might be challenging, or even anybody really. It affects how we are with the person at the grocery store. So let's just all together take a moment and feel the results of our practice. Feel the benefit of our practice in our own self. And as you set yourself up, 2 sitting bones, pubic bone and tailbone pressing down, it's like you're anchoring this space on the earth and you're sending this vibration out to anyone in your sphere, and your sphere can be as big as you can visualize it. So this vibration you can send all the way to China, you can send all the way to Russia, you can send all the way to Australia. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and bow your head towards your heart. And just take this moment of presence to consider that anchor that you're pressing down, and to consider the ripple effect. Rippling not just through the physical space, the energetic space, our psychological space, our spiritual space. And then all together, maybe in this moment, maybe in, well, we're all in whatever moment we're in, but maybe we're not all in the same moment right now. But let's all come into gratitude together. So whatever it is that we visualize for ourselves or for our world, we want to visualize the best case scenario. We want to visualize growth and evolution. So just take a moment to shift your focus onto gratitude. So we shift our focus onto that which brings us a sense of hope for our future. Some of us have the impulse to let our minds go to worst case scenario. If that is your impulse, use this moment focused on gratitude to pause. Bring gratitude into the forefront. You can worry about stuff later once you've paused. Slowly allow your eyes to open. Namaste. Take a moment and just let everything resonate for a second before you run, before you impulsively jump into the next part of your day. Just take a moment, let it all resonate.